Meeting the needs of the community. I'm Lisa Oligas, and you're watching Newsmakers. In this edition, we talk with leaders at the Economic Security Corporation, an agency that serves 4 counties, hundreds of individuals and families, and supports people to success. We will look at their various programs and the help offered. We begin our conversation with Chief Executive Officer Ryan Peterson and Lisa Harner, Director of Head Start and Early Head Start. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
So we will talk all about your programs, but it all starts with a needs assessment, and this year's gets underway very soon. So Ryan, tell us how you conduct this needs assessment for the community.
Okay. So we just started our needs assessment. So we've done our key informant interviews. Those are interviews of people at other nonprofits, businesses that may come into contact with the same clients that we serve, that may know what they're going through. Our next phase, we're hoping to wrap up in January or February, is surveys. So we will survey our staff, our board, and then the community members as a whole. And then we'll have focus groups where we invite people in from the communities and ask them questions. And from there, we take all that data and figure out what we're going to focus on.
So you really want input from all the players. How does this, make a difference in how you make decisions? I mean, Lisa, does this help in planning for services that you offer?
Absolutely, yes. So whatever the parents in our community need is how we start to adapt the program options we have. So in our program, we have several options for parents to choose from just based on what the community needs is set. And you probably know this. We have child care deserts in our communities and in our counties. And so parents need care. They need full day services for themselves for working and going to school.
And then you have lots of programs. So how does it help you decide, okay, this one's really, really needed? Does it change year to year as to where you say, oh, we've got to put more oomph here?
It does. So for instance, last year, or the last community needs assessment, transportation was our biggest need. And so from that, we developed the CARS program and launched that, and that's been a huge success. So we're excited to see what comes up as a top couple needs and see what we can do to address those.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, talk to us about how many kids you do serve, and do you have to then plan to try and, if you want to grow?
Absolutely. I'm thinking about that all the time, actually, but we have 515 children.
Wow.
We serve Jasper, Newton, McDonald, Barton counties, and I have center-based, which is the typical classroom that you think about. We have home-based, and we also have a family child care partner. So parents can choose the option that works best for them. They can be working or not working. Really, the eligibility has to do with if they're a low-income family.
Tell us a little bit more about the home program, because we have video. I mean, we have video of them at the buildings themselves, but this sounds a little bit different.
Right. So home-based, it's a weekly home visiting option for families. Maybe you have one parent who stays home and the other person's working or going to school, and so they're looking for something a little more what they can do in their home. So how can they turn their home into a learning environment for their child? And so we provide child development activities. We talk about parenting. We look at the employment and education goals of the family and just provide those resources that they need to break down the barriers so they can become more self-sufficient.
I mean, this is much more than just a daycare situation. Parents can even stay and observe teachers, which we found on video. You also have some training for parents. So what is typically taught there? Why is it important to make sure parents get parenting skills, not just sending the kids to Head Start?
Absolutely. Well, Head Start's a 2-generation approach, sometimes 3 generations, and children develop in the context of a family, especially young children. And so, if a parent feels like, hey, I am the first and I'm the best teacher of my child, then they're confident, and then their child becomes confident from that. So at our parenting classes, we use a curriculum called Conscious Discipline, which is all about helping a parent regulate themselves so that they can teach a child how to regulate as well. So it's all about focusing on, what they need to do in order to help their child manage their own behavior, feel confident, and be ready to learn.
We've done Conscious Discipline on Newsmakers because it's used at Lion Cub Academy, which is awesome.
Yes.
But, are there some very basic tips that we could share that parents might get by being part of Head Start?
Tips that we could share. So as far as conscious discipline goes, something that we talk about a lot is when children are fighting with one another, maybe even hurting one another in the classroom, we will ask them if they're being helpful or hurtful. And just explaining the difference between those two things is, it's pretty amazing how quickly young children can learn that. So.
And empowering for parents to be able to share that with their kids. Ryan, how are the programs actually funded, and how does the needs assessment impact getting funding?
Yep. So we're over 80% federal funded, and then we get some local and county or state and county money, and even Joplin City has some grants that we operate. So based on our needs assessment, we determine if we need to change up a program, such as Lisa just talked about. You know, the Joplins or the school districts are doing a lot more early childhood, so she's adapting her program to be able to work with them. And then just maybe new programs. You know, if it's a program that's not operating already, then we try to find grants and funding to get that off the ground.
Are most of your grants on an annual basis? So you have to do a lot of reapplying?
Every year, yep, every year.
Wow. So you have somebody who, is it their job? Is that you?
Nope, it's not me. Nope, the program directors all basically take care of that, and they do a great job.
Okay. So Lisa, is funding Head Start different than getting funds for programs such as weatherization because it's education oriented?
Absolutely. So we're federally funded. We're actually written into it's a Head Start Act through Congress. So in order to change Head Start, Congress would have to vote to make that change. But yeah, every year you do your grant application, and every year you're looking for how to change things up. So this year we added full day services in our Head Start program. So now we are open 4 hours, 6 hours, and 10 hours a day. So parents can choose what works best for them. But yes, changing it up every year.
Yeah. And Ryan, do participants in all of your programs have to meet income guidelines? Can you give us an idea about that?
Almost every one of them. The CARS program is the one exception to that rule. We don't check income in that, but almost every other program, they have income guidelines to meet, and they're all different depending on where the funding comes from.
All right. Well, thanks for all the information. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will learn all about the housing programs and supports for energy assistance programs and case management. But first, we will have a chance to hear from those personally impacted by economic security programs. Greg Wilson has the story.
I had my first and only child when I was 18.
Jalen Vanderplow shares her journey as a single mom and how economic security programs gave support when she needed it.
For me, housing, the housing vouchers that I was granted in 2017, I originally applied for those because I had my daughter in 2010. And so at some point I did sign up for, any and all type of resources or help that I could. And, right on time in 2017, when I actually found my first home, they came into play, and it really just, it's really been a rock for me.
Rental assistance in 2017 was the first step in helping Jalen become self-sufficient. In 2022, her advisor connected her to the Goals program.
Just here to help, me get over, any obstacles or hardships that I might face. And that's what they did. So the last in 2022, I got into the Goals program, and I started working closely with an advisor on a monthly budget, monthly bills, things like that. And she kind of really just coached me up all the way to, when you're kind of thinking about it all in your head, it almost seems like, how can I do all of this? Or it's not possible. And so just being able to, see that budget, see my income, see what I'm working, how much more I need to work, things like that. It really just kind of all started to make sense, and then I just kind of started to do that.
She's found stability and consistency, now celebrating her 4th year at her current job.
It's a really good feeling, it feels better than going to ask for help, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, and for years I had to ask for help. I had to, and thank God that there were, resources in the community for me to use, because that's what they're here for, to help you, get there. And so I just feel like if you do it the right way and you use it the right way, you can't lose.
Without the help and economic security, I wouldn't be here today.
Alan McGee says he was a much different person when he found housing and utility help from Economic Security.
I lived in Granby, Missouri, and I was living in an RV. We didn't have water. We had electricity. I was sick. I weighed 300 pounds. I was on 3 liters of oxygen per hour. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk. I didn't exercise. I was basically ready to die.
The agency connected him with an apartment he could afford on his disability and retirement income, and the past year has transformed him.
Well, I've been there for a year. I'm not on oxygen no more. My diabetes was at 13, and now it is at 6.5. I've lost 100 pounds in a year. And I couldn't have done it without Economic Security and the grace of God.
Candy Seiler in Newton County says she took advantage of the weatherization program provided by Economic Security.
Weatherization program is awesome. The first year I moved into my house, I like froze to death. I have a 100-year-old house, and I went through like 2 tanks of propane in one winter, 300-gallon, yes. So I called them, and they came down and weatherized my house. They insulated the ceiling. They caulked around everything. They put Minnesota weather stripping, and I go through about half a tank now.
She now sits on the Economic Security Board as low-income representative. She says the application for energy assistance is also simple and helps her with propane bills.
Because when you're on a fixed income, it's pretty hard to even get groceries or anything else when you have to pay for propane and all that. Like I said, in the winter it gets really high. I want to say it was almost $500. Yeah, to fill up the tank. Yeah, so Economic Security is a real blessing.
Sarah Gould shares how her experience with Early Head Start improved her parenting skills and put her on a path to a career with her own home daycare.
Probably we were spanked as kids, we were doing spanking, and I think that's when I kind of learned there's gotta be a better way, and they helped show us the way. They supported our education, so through this process I ended up I was told I was gifted with children, and that's where my talents were. And so I ended up as a home provider.
She credits the program with inspiring her to get a degree and is now working on her master's.
Those are the secret things, or the things behind the doors nobody sees, and it allowed us to be vulnerable, to work on our goals and ourselves, to build us up. And so that's one piece that was supported. It built our confidence.
It's confidence that carried over to her children, who have pursued their own college careers after a childhood being involved in community groups like Girl Scouts.
And if you go to a local park, you'll see her communication boards up near parks. So that's one thing that she was able to do. But that community started with us learning how to be a community as young parents. So when I say that, that was built through the program. So in particular, I remember being a part of Policy Council with Head Start, and that built kind of that, hey, you can do more, you can affect more, you can be a part of more. And so that kind of drove those values and goals, I think, in our family.
Economic Security, impacting lives and even generations. For Newsmakers, I'm Greg Wilson.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are taking a deep dive into the supports available from Economic Security Corporation. We just saw the life-changing impact that support can make. Joining our conversation now are Community Development Director Tammy Walker and Casey Collins, Assistant Director of Housing. Ladies, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
So, living without water, in some cases electricity, how do you determine what kind of help a certain person or individual can get when they come to you?
Sometimes they come in just asking for one program, but what we like to do is an intake assessment and referral process where we ask them some questions to see what their needs are and then try to link them up with programs we have in our department, in our agency, and then the larger community.
Are people often needing more than one program of assistance?
Yes, we do try to bundle as many services as possible to help a family become a little bit more self-sufficient.
Yeah. And so what are the income guidelines? Who can apply for these programs?
That's a big question. All of our programs have a variety of income guidelines, so it really just depends on the program. But some of them have a little bit more generous income guideline, like our utility program, where you can make 60% of the state median income, which is a very high income guideline.
Because everybody might, I mean, there's a lot of people might need utility help. And many people do struggle with heating bills. We're going to talk to weatherization in our next segment, but folks like, Candy, propane bills were overwhelming for her. Is it a one-time qualification, or is it like through a season? How does that work when they get that kind of help?
We have a winter and a summer season, but in the winter they can apply for a one-time assistance payment through a program called Energy Assistance, and that's based on fuel source. So if they qualify, they get one payment towards, what they might need help with, like propane or wood or electric. And then we have a crisis program in a winter and a summer season. So in the winter, we can help up to $800 towards a shutoff notice or help somebody get their service turned back on. And then in the summer, we have up to $300 that we can help with somebody with a shutoff notice or get their service turned back on.
With your allotment of funds, how many people can you anticipate seeing each year?
It's a huge program. We served over 13,000 households last year in that one program alone.
That's awesome. Do they often worry about choosing this bill over medical help? Or, I mean, do they have to,
Yes.
when people come to you, is it like, oh?
It's especially hard for people who are on fixed incomes, like the elderly and disabled individuals, because, they utilize our program to try to make their budget stretch throughout the year. So they have to make hard decisions about what they can afford.
Yeah. Casey, you work the goals program, and I know making funds stretch to cover bills is a factor in budgeting. You work with folks in that area too. So what kinds of classes, education go into helping folks when they're having to deal with all these kinds of bills? We talked to Ray Lynn, who was part of the goals program. What goes into all that?
So our goals program is kind of a special program with our housing choice voucher or Section 8 program. So that is for people who are already receiving rental assistance through us, and they maybe want some extra support and extra help achieving their goals. So we, with their coordinator, create a plan, they develop goals, and then we make personalized budgets with them and try to connect them to various community resources so that they can achieve those goals.
Does it help them make better choices, learn how to juggle the bills that they have?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once they are getting the assistance through housing, and then they're finally able to breathe and not necessarily just worry about that, or a single parent that is choosing between rent and feeding their kids and that kind of thing. This helps them bridge that gap and actually sit back and realize what goals they need to develop so that they can achieve financial independence and self-sufficiency.
So is the goals program the same as case management, or do they differ a little bit? How does that work?
Yeah, they're separate.
They're separate, but there's case management involved in the housing programs. We do case management, and even in our Head Start and Early Head Start department, they do case management services, one-on-one assistance with families. So we do it.
Define case management for those who might go, well, what does case management mean?
Case management's different for each family because it depends on what their goals are. So they're paired up with a professional staff that helps them achieve their goals. So they might have a goal of, becoming housed, saving money, get a job, get a better job, how to keep the job. So whatever their goal is, we try to help map out a path and work alongside them so that they can achieve that goal.
Does that help people think that things are maybe more attainable when you go, if I check this box off, I can maybe do this? I mean, do you think sometimes people associate, like, homeless seems sometimes hopeless. Does this kind of change that attitude?
I would say that it definitely does, and I think that just having sometimes that extra support and encouragement and somebody telling you, hey, you're going to be okay, we're going to connect to this, because a lot of times people come to us that are feeling hopeless, and so just saying, hey, we've been there with other people before, and this is going to be okay, we're going to connect you with this person, and this is what you need to do, and these are steps that you can take to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And I think that it's always beneficial to see them succeed at that.
How much of it is about making connections with programs in the community? I know the Thrive program is something that's going to be starting. I mean, do you work with other agencies a lot?
Yes, I mean, like I said earlier, bundling services and wrapping around services, even if we're not the ones offering it, connecting people back into the community to the programs that they want and need is really important. And sometimes they just don't know how to take that first step or how to connect or how to ask for help. So having somebody help them with that, I think, really does make it more beneficial for them.
Casey, we did a show about the CARS program. How can solving transportation problems make a difference in these folks achieving their goals? I mean, is that often how do I get a job if I have transportation issues?
Yeah, that's a huge part of a lot of our goals participants that are trying to get income and trying to step out and achieve their goals. They need transportation to get to interviews, to get to appointments, to get to medical appointments, to their case management appointments, things like that. That's a huge connection for them.
So when it comes to the CARS program, what's needed now? I mean, there's been an uptick in usage. Do you still need more drivers? Where are you at with that?
There's definitely been an uptick. It started in May of 2024, and we're way over 380,000 miles since it started.
Wow.
I think we have 32 drivers right now, but we're always recruiting for volunteer drivers in all of the counties. And we're always looking for different grant opportunities and sponsorships because our largest expense with the program is the mileage reimbursement for the volunteer drivers. So we're always looking for funding and ways to support, to get people where they need to go to all the really important appointments and buying food and just everything that they need to do just to live their lives.
You work with the Homeless Coalition. You're getting ready to do a homeless count. What's the goal with that and of your organization when it comes to the homeless issue?
Homelessness is very complicated, very complicated issue. Been involved with that coalition for a really long time. Really, as a partner and partners in the community, we really try to coordinate with one another just to have the resources available to house people, to prevent homelessness. We're going to have 3 different committees being established around data to get better data so we can tell the story better, coordinating a little bit more and educating the community as well as the providers. But the one thing that we do every year with the point in time count is just to get a snapshot in time to see who's living unsheltered, who are in emergency shelters, what is their story, so that we can use that information to plan programs, see where our gaps are, coordinate, and then I think most importantly, just to connect with the people that we meet when we go out on the account and try to engage them in services that they want.
Yeah. And they'll know they can turn to you. Well, thank you for all this great information. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
for being
you.
here. It is time for another break, and when we come back, we talk to the weatherization and home repair staff about their work. As we go to break, how you can get in touch with Economic Security to apply for support. Don't go away. Welcome back to Newsmakers. Economic Security has a number of programs to help people at all phases, and not all are homeless. But sometimes folks need help to stay in their homes. Utility bills should be about 5 to 10% of your income, according to Money Management International. But for many low-income households, that percentage can be greater. To delve into how to keep utility costs in check, we are joined by Matt Daniel, the Weatherization Director, and Home Repair Director Curtis Scott. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being here at Newsmakers.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So, you guys work directly with clients. How do you assess when someone's home is not energy efficient?
Well, we want to make sure that, we want to make sure that they have, good weather seals around their doors and windows. So typically we go in and do a home inspection on each home to find out what the needs of the home are. Everybody has different needs, so Somebody's utility bills may be high, that may be one need, and somebody else may be cold. They're not really worried about or have a utility bill need, but they're just cold. So we go in and do a home inspection to find out what all the home needs, and then kind of go from there, and each home is different. So
I've seen you put a fan in the doorway. So what does that do?
So when we run a blower door, the blower door tells us where the air is coming from. So we find out if they have air leaks around the doors, windows, their HVAC registers. We can test those to see how leaky the ductwork is. You know, there's cracks and gaps all over houses. We see a lot of old houses, so we just want to make sure we find each one of those leaks, and we're not going to find them all, but you know, the major ones are really going to help.
Yeah. And so then how would you repair those?
We use a lot of caulking, you know,
Weather stripping?
Expansion foam, weather stripping, door sweeps. If the door, we see a lot of doors that are in dire need of repair or can't be repaired, and so we're able to typically replace those exterior doors. We just want to make sure we keep in the wintertime, keep the warm air inside, cold air outside.
Is an air filter important to be checking?
Yeah, so we
heating
recommend each season to change it out very first thing before winter, and then typically a monthly to replace that, because airflow in the HVAC system will help keep the home warmer. It'll also help the system run better and
More
not have
efficiently.
to. Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk about home repairs, Curtis. Tell us some of the most common ones you do to make sure their home is sealed and functioning well.
We replace a lot of roofs. We do a lot of window replacement as well, exterior door replacement. We do a lot of vinyl siding, aluminum soffit and fascia, front and back porch repairs, those sorts of things, most of it on the exterior of the home.
Yeah. One client featured in the video mentioned the weather stripping. What are some other things that we can maybe even do for ourselves that might help our energy efficiency? I mean, I guess the vinyl siding would actually help insulate. Are there other suggestions you would have?
Yeah, so we suggest maybe turning the thermostat down a degree. That'll help save on utility bills. Just sealing around windows. If you see a crack around a window, there's air getting in. So even if you don't have a blower door, you know that there's air coming in around. If you see daylight around a door, just you can get that foam, stick-on foam at Lowe's or any hardware store, and just trying to stop those, fill those gaps.
Yeah. Well, great information. Thanks for all the work you guys do, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. Economic Security is programs that can impact anyone struggling financially. Learn more at their website, www.escswa.org. Thanks to all our guests, and thank you for watching Newsmakers.